Welcome to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax. Except you, that person driving. Sit up and keep your eyes on the road. Your ears, though, can still listen as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, and unfortunately, by myself here today. Rob had something pop up here. We want to have a show, though, anyway. So I got, of course, Rob's blessing to go ahead and do a solo show here tonight for you guys, because we have huge news for Giant fans here. I mean, this is one of those back-to-back days that you see big names coming onto the G-Men squad here. And guys, I couldn't be more excited about what's going on right now. It's like we're a team that has talent coming to the squad. We don't have this like scrubs, with all due respect to the players that have been busting their butts the last couple of years. The scrubs we've been having the last few years here. So the big news, of course, today is we got a trade alert, guys. Yes, a trade alert. So the big trade today was Darren Waller, the Pro Bowl tight end, comes to the New York Giants. And for those of you guys who have been watching this show regularly, you know me and Rob have been talking about this in preparation for this offseason, that I've been saying nonstop. I expect the Giants to get a tight end this offseason. And people said, oh my God, you're crazy. We got Daniel Bellinger. We don't need a second tight end. There's a very thin wide receiver market out there. There's not a lot of good wide receivers that are available this offseason. But what there was some pass-catching tight ends available. And what we did is, instead of getting a guy like Mike Gesicki, who, to be honest, is who I thought we'd go up and get, we got who is legitimately a top 5 tight end in the league. Legitimately a top 5 at the position. This is a guy who should be a Pro Bowler year in, year out. And a guy that really has a chance to be an all-pro if it wasn't for Travis Kelce taking that spot pretty much every damn year. This guy has the 3rd most yards by a tight end since 2019. The only people that are beating him right now on that kind of category, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews. Keep in mind, he's been injured the last 2 seasons, which we'll get into in a minute, because that's a whole other concern of mine here. It's the one concern I really have in this. He's also got the 3rd most yards per game amongst tight ends since 19. That's 3rd behind, again, Travis Kelce, but now George Kittle. So based on those 2 stats alone, you can almost sit there and say maybe he's a top 4 tight end at that point, depending on who you want to put in what order there. But we have a legitimate weapon for Daniel Jones now. Probably the best weapon he's seen since he's been a New York Giant. You know, before that, you can probably say the best weapon he's had has been a guy like Sterling Shepard, who's been, not healthy basically his entire career. He's got a legit weapon now, guys. This is going to be fun to see double tight ends going like crazy with Daniel Bellinger and Darren Waller. So Kadarius Toney made the news as well, because as soon as that trade broke down, he's on Twitter like the coward he is, because I'm calling it like that. He's a coward because he's got a Twitter account that you can't even post comments to or anything like that. He just wants to be able to put whatever he wants out there, and he wants to go ahead and give you guys, no chance to go back at him like that. And he puts a laughing emoji followed by a yawn emoji. And that's just a slap in the face to Giant fans, as far as I'm concerned. An absolute slap in the face, because we went there and rooted for this guy for how long? And for some reason, he's got it out for us. I don't get it. But you know what? Screw you, Kadarius Toney. Screw you. Here's the other interesting part why we mentioned as far as, Kadarius Toney and his thoughts on this trade. The pick we gave up to get Darren Waller is the pick we got from the Chiefs in that deal. Art Stapleton, who, great reporter, by the way, one of the few reporters I'll actually say is a great reporter out there for the Giants. He said, Giants trading Kadarius Toney for Darren Waller and a sixth has a different feel, doesn't it? It does have a different feel, folks. If you can't see how that's a different feel, there's something wrong there. We got a top 5 tight end of the league and a 6th-round pick for Kadarius Toney. Steal, point blank. Joe Shane wins like executive of the year for these moves the way like he's making it like that. Connect the dots to that, and that's just absolute sheer brilliance, guys. Absolute sheer brilliance. Tony Jefferson, our safety last year that's trying to convert over to linebacker this offseason, put out a tweet as well. He said, remember Coach was getting mad. He was cooking us in camp. And we was like, Coach, this MF, nice. You can guess what MF says. Try to keep at least somewhat clean. Then he tagged Marlon Humphrey. This is a guy that came out of nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. In camp. And with the Ravens there. And got seen actually by the Raiders. When the Raiders were doing joint practices. And that's why they went ahead and got him. So, yeah, this is like big time. I'm telling you guys, this is like, and you got to wonder, did Wink Martindale have something to do with this as well? Wink's very well aware of what this guy can do because obviously he saw him in Baltimore his time there. And I'm in shock over this movie, to be very frank with you. I did not expect to get this kind of weapon. We talked about Daniel Jones needs the number 1 weapon. Folks, he's got a number 1 weapon now. He has a number 1 weapon. And we're not done. Because I still think that we're going to go ahead and get a wide receiver. I really do. I'm not going to sit there and say it's going to be a huge name. I know I'm hearing a lot of thoughts still on go ahead and trading for a guy like, Jerry Jeudy or something like that. After this move, I'm not so sure that's the route we're going to go. I still think we're going to draft a wide receiver. I still think we're going to sign a wide receiver as well. Who that is, we'll find out. The rumor that I kept hearing all day is that Giants are said to be interested in wide receiver Adam Thielen, who I've talked about in this show before. I don't want Adam Thielen. I really don't. I think he's washed up and I think he's done. The fact that he couldn't get stuff going last season when Justin Jefferson was just lighting everybody up, nobody was trying to stop him. He couldn't do it. So I don't know if age is kind of caught up to him or whatever the case may be, but I just don't think he's got it in him anymore. So I'm hoping we don't get him. There's other names that I'd be interested in, but he's not one of them. But the Panthers are actually set to be hosting him tomorrow. He's flying out to Charlotte to meet with them. The Colts have also shown interest in him as well. So, it's not a lockdown that we're going to go ahead and get this guy. But it is interesting that the name's been thrown out by a couple different people there. So we got some comments here before we move on to the next topic here. John S. Anderson, as always. Welcome, John. I'm here, Goofy Brothers. Welcome, man. And my dad, as always. Gesicki and Schultz were looking for too much money. Yeah, it's not even the money part of it. To me, I'll agree with you that they probably wanted more money than we wanted to pay him. But it's also the fact that Waller's a better player. He's a better player. And the only concern with him, again, is that injury history. The last 2 years, he's had some lower body injuries, which is always a little scary. Hamstring, ankle injuries, that kind of stuff there. But it's not like this guy is like tore an ACL and he's out for the year and he's lost a step probably because of that. This is not that kind of scenario. This is a guy who kept on having a bunch of little minor injuries basically pull up there and kind of hurt him the last couple seasons. But this is a guy that, like I said, has just absolute immense talent. Absolute immense talent. Let's see here. We got Hudson on YouTube. Welcome, Hudson. Thoughts on Lamar Jackson to Indy? Is that a thing? Because I have not heard anything about Lamar Jackson to Indy. But someone's going to take this guy. That's for sure. It's just a matter of who that's going to be. I'm seeing the Ravens.com talking about it. I'm seeing a couple of things for rumors. But yeah, I'm not seeing anything as being legit to that. So until something actually breaks down or I see somebody talking about it that's a trusted source, not one of those yahoos that, made a fake page to look like it, I can't say too much on that. But I mean, it would make sense for the Colts, depending on what their plan is overall at quarterback. Obviously, they got the 4th overall pick in the draft as well. So they can still get a QB in the draft. They really can. So I don't think they're gonna go that route, to be honest with you. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I don't think they're gonna go that route. I think they're gonna go ahead and draft a guy like Will Levis or something like that, depending on who's available at pick 4. And we've talked about this before as well. I think the Cardinals are actually gonna look to move out of number 3. So maybe that's what they do, is they just move up number 3 so they can get the 3rd best quarterback, which sounds kind of scary, but they've got 4 quarterbacks that people are looking at in this draft. So my dad pops in again with Tony is immature, self-centered, nobody. Yeah, that's pretty much, dead on. John S. Anderson, age and staying healthy, only worry about Waller. Want Gesicki still, if possible, if priced right, but probably won't happen now. Yeah, John, I don't think that's going to happen either. Gesicki was a guy, like I said, I really wanted. We talked about him a couple of times in our preview shows for the free agency, but I don't see that happening. I think at this point they're going to stick with what they got. They'll have Bellinger. They'll have Darren Waller now. They already re-signed Lawrence Cager as well. They may go get somebody else to be somebody to fight with Cager for that 3rd spot. But yeah, talk about a difference a year mix, folks. Remember last year, this time we're going, who the hell is going to play tight end? We had no clue. We draft Bellinger. We have no clue we have in him. All off season, we're like, who the hell is going to be the tight end? Someone's got to play the position. And wow. You go to an amazing rookie season to Daniel Bellinger. You don't expect him to get better next year, obviously. Couple that with having a top 5 tight end of the entire league. This is a position of strength, folks, now. Point blank, this is a position of strength. Hudson pops up with the carrots. Hudson, if you want to give me a little heads up on where your carrots are going there. When I see it, I see all the different pages that we're on at once. So, John S. Anderson Jr., where's Roberto? Cable out again. Cable guy. No. he unfortunately wasn't able to make it. They had a work scheduling issue, but we wanted to still do the show here so you guys can go ahead and find out all about Darren Waller because it's just such big news. I can't wait till tomorrow for it. Ben Cornett, if Waller can stay healthy, he'll be a good offensive piece for this Giants offense. Yeah, 100%. And, a key thing I think people also need to keep in mind is tight end is a very important position to Brian Dable because he was a tight ends coach. He was Gronk's tight end coach in New England, keep in mind. So you think he might know something about coaching up that position. Guys, I'm excited. Seriously, this is look at all the times you saw Daniel Jones rolling out and throwing the ball to Daniel Bellinger in the flat. And no offense to Bellinger, but he's not Darren Waller. When healthy, Darren Waller is much better than Bellinger is. Bellinger could grow to be much better than what he is. He has a higher ceiling potential. In other words, he can get to a higher plateau because of where he's at now. But Waller, in the end, will still probably be the better player because that's just how good he is. My dad chimes in with it. Lamar Jackson should be the fallback option for the Jets if Rodgers screws them over. Yeah, we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers in a minute here, but to be very frank with you, I would actually, if I was the Jets, I would go ahead and go for Lamar Jackson over Aaron Rodgers, but I'll get that in a minute because we got our notes from all the stuff from the day. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers definitely pops up in this. Hudson, agree, but I don't think Levis is a safe option. To be very honest with you, Hudson, I haven't done much homework yet on the quarterbacks, just because of the fact that we've been still working out, giving reviews for the last season as far as Giants players, looking at options for who we would want to draft, and obviously we're not drafting a top 5 quarterback this draft. But I do plan on looking at that later on. We may even still do a show on that for you guys here because even though obviously the Giants aren't looking at a quarterback, we like to give NFL news in general. Giants centric, but we want to give you guys all the news in general so you guys have the the info to go battle people there as we all like to do a little football banter. That's a fun thing to do. Let's see. My dad pops in again with they may sign or draft a blocking tight end and put Waller in the slot. It depends on who's healthy. I'm going to put it that way as well. It depends on who's healthy, what they do with Darren Waller. Because, yeah, he's a tight end, but he is receiving tight end 100%. So the question comes into be, though, is what happens with Shep? What happens with Wan'Dale Robinson? Because those are slot receivers. Now, you can obviously do a 4 wide receiver type of set and use Waller as one of those 4 and have 2 interior receivers like that and 2 slot kind of receivers. But, yeah, I think that's one thing to consider is the fact that, there's a definite potential to move him around in the offense. And obviously that's something that, we're going to see because that's something that we've shown, last year that the Giants like to do overall. The other thing is that, again, we see that with Travis Kelce in Kansas City. And that's where Mike Kafka comes from, is that kind of, system there. So, yeah, he'll definitely be moving around, that's for sure. John S. Anderson Jr., what about Waller's age? Waller's 30. I'm not worried about that, honestly. Travis Kelce, who still, we talked about it a couple times in this program here even, is the best tight end in the league right now. One of the best of all time. And he's still playing at it, that kind of level, at 33. We have Waller now for, I want to say 4 more years, because he signed a contract recently with the Raiders. So we have him on the hook for anywhere from $11 to $13 million a year for the next 4 years. Which I'm telling you, folks, in a couple of years, that's going to be a steal. An absolute steal. The big thing also with that, I should point out, is because of the fact that he was traded to us, we didn't sign him as a free agent, there's no cap cost whatsoever to us if we cut him. So let's say hypothetically, worst case scenario, we have him for 2 years, the guy still can't get healthy. We cut him. We save all the money. There's not a single penalty to us whatsoever. There's no way to lose in this scenario. Absolutely no way to lose. Because what do you guys think we're going to get with the 100th overall pick? It's practically a 4th round pick. So I've heard people talk about the injury concerns. And listen, they're valid. 100% valid. Anybody who's thinking that, well, hold on a second. There's another injured Giant. That's just what we need right now. It's a guy who can't stay in the field. You guys are 100% valid if that's your thought. But the potential is well worth it. It's absolutely worth it. Because when healthy, this guy is one of the biggest weapons on the field here. I'm telling you, not just the Giants, but in the NFL. And my dad chimes in, Waller will be 31 when the season starts. I didn't look at the date, but I just know he's 30 now. So yeah, I'll take your word on that because I know you looked it up. But he doesn't have the mileage typical for his age because he wasn't always a starter. Yeah. No, that's a very good point as well because like we talked about earlier in the show, he was on the practice squad and was kind of stuffed in the background, so to speak, by the Ravens in the beginning because he was, I believe, undrafted even, and wanted to go ahead and, they want to groom him, so to speak, and get him up into the system and be where they want him to be before they went ahead and, put him on the field and exposed him too much there because they didn't want to kill his confidence. They were kind of stuff him in the background like that. And like I said, the Raiders saw what he was, and yeah, they didn't let that happen. It was a 6th round draft pick. Sorry, I was a little off on that. So 6th round draft pick out of Georgia Tech. So apparently also he's the great grandson of a famous composer, Fats Waller. If anybody knows the jazz pianist, I guess I said pianist, piano, Fats Waller, apparently. I'm not a jazz guy, but if anybody knows, apparently the two are related. So yeah, like I said, guys, great move. I can't even say a single bad word on this. If it was like a 1st round pick or a 2nd round pick, I can go, okay, hold on. What could that pick have been? But at the very tail end of the 3rd round, practically a 4th round pick. Guys, there's no way in hell we were going to find somebody like this in that kind of pick. Unless we just lucked out and got that late round magical guy like a Tyreek Woolen was for the Seahawks this past season. That's not a position that you sit there and go, this is a quality pick. It's not a bad pick. It's usually a depth guy, a borderline starter kind of guy that you get with that kind of pick. So to get a guy who's a Pro Bowl caliber kind of player, absolute freaking steal, guys. Any more thoughts on that, guys? Feel free to go into the comments and let us know. I definitely want to hear what everybody thinks on this one, because this is a big, important move for the Giants here, and this could be very well the difference to whether or not we improve next season. Is this guy healthy? Is he able to contribute? Is he able to be what he was? Because there's always that risk as well for a guy that got injured especially for a couple of years. Does he come back and be the same player he was? So, but yeah, if you can get a guy in the tight end position that's going to put up 1,000 receiving yards, yeah, that's a hard matchup to go against for a defense. How many times have we seen tight ends just roll all over our defense? It's going to be nice to see the reverse. See us have a tight end that rolls all over the defense, especially with the double tight end sets. Because we're going to see a lot of that. We're going to see a lot of movement. We're going to see a lot of matchup issues, because that's what the Giants are going to make sure they get. That's for damn sure. So, like I said, guys, any more thoughts you guys have, feel free to go ahead and put that into the into the chat boxes here, into the comments. Again, if you guys are on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, I will see your comments live here on the program. So if you're not on one of those three, listen, we like you watching anyway, but just give you a heads up, I won't see the comment. So let's get into the rest of the free agency frenzy. Alrighty, so the big news we have here, and this trade is not even done yet, but we keep talking about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets, because it's pretty much a foregone conclusion he's going to retire or he's going to go to the Jets. Nobody else has really shown interest in getting the guy. And on top of that, they've been talking, the Packers and the Jets and Rodgers. I mean, they flew out to LA to go talk to him. Like, it's going to happen. But once again, Aaron Rodgers is proving that he's a pompous ass. See, I didn't stop myself from cursing the one time. I couldn't do it this time. He's like a petulant child giving a list of demands to the Jets. And this is why a minute ago I said, if I was the Jets, I would go with Lamar Jackson. And I'm telling you right now, Jets fans, if any of you guys are out there, I would encourage your team at that point to go ahead and contact the Ravens and find out what it takes to just trade for the rights for Lamar Jackson, instead of having to get up 2 first-round picks, because he's literally, Rodgers has told the Jets, from everything, all the reports, to go get Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, Mercedes Lewis, and OBJ. What the hell? Could you imagine any other player going to a team he's even traded for or signed? Give me all these guys. This is what I need to succeed. Basically, a whole new wide receiver core. And what really pisses me off in this is a guy who has told the Packers over and over again, get me help. Get me help. I need help. I can't win with these guys. And what does he want? The same goddamn guys he had. Make up your mind. Make up your mind, Aaron. Were they the issue, or were you the issue in Green Bay why they couldn't win? Was the defense the issue? Don't sit there and say the receivers were the issue like you said for all these years, and then try to go to the team and demand all those receivers. Because clearly they weren't the problem then in your eyes either. But yeah, so that's what he's asking for, and he's going to get it. Honestly, I think the Jets are going to cave in. I think they think that they're going to win a championship, or at least have a championship caliber team with him on the roster. And I'm not sold on it. I'm not so... Rodgers didn't look so great last season. He had his moments, don't get me wrong. But he did not look like the old Aaron Rodgers last year. And on top of that, the guy's had issues winning in the postseason. He's had some of the best teams in the NFL the last few years. And he still has the one ring from years ago. As much as Mike McCaffrey gets a lot of crap, and deservedly so, he's an overrated coach, in some circles. He's also probably underrated in some circles as well because he got Rodgers to the championship. So, yeah, like I said, not the move that I would make if I was a Jet. If I was a Jets fan, I'd be encouraging my team to not go ahead and get him. Go get Lamar Jackson. Yeah. So, as we see Jonathan Anderson, Jets should, no matter what, go full in on Lamar Jackson. Listen, like I said, I'm right there 100%. My dad chimes in with Rodgers can't win in the postseason no matter who he's throwing to. Yeah. Like you said, this is a guy who should have won a couple of rings. This is a team that's consistently got to the postseason pretty much every single year for the last 30 years. And they got 2 rings to show for it. One with Favre, one with Rodgers. It's a little disappointing if you're a Packer fan, I'm sure. I mean, if we got a Packer fan listening, let me know in the comments section. Let me know what you're thinking there because I'd be disappointed. I really would be. I mean, think about it there. We had 2 championships in that time frame as well with Eli. But we weren't getting the postseason every single year. We got to the postseason, 4 years? That's it. So, yeah, I'd be livid if I was a Packer fan. I'd be livid to see all this as well. See Aaron Rodgers claiming he wants all the guys that he was telling them for years he couldn't win with. We do got a couple of comments also on, we were talking earlier with Darren Waller. My dad chimes in, we're going to see a lot of 12 personnel this year. Yeah, big time. Big time. And that's going to help Saquon as well because they're going to see double tight end looks. They're not going to know what's going on. They're going to have to respect the pass. That's going to help Saquon. It's going to help take some people off of the box at that point because they're going to have to go ahead and cover these guys. Jonathan Anderson Jr. Imagine if someone took Saquon to first, but I'm sure he doesn't want to leave. Listen, I think Saquon is smart enough to realize he's playing a position that has a very short timeline. He's already made some good money because, thanks to Gettleman being an idiot and drafting him in the 2nd overall pick. But this is potentially his last chance to get a good deal. So, I think Saquon, as much as he may not want to emotionally leave the Giants, I think he would potentially leave the Giants if he got a chance for a big contract because he's going to want to go ahead and get, the last big payday that he can get. And can't blame the guy whatsoever because this is how you set yourself and your family up for life. But yeah, I don't think he's going to leave because no one's going to give us 2 first-round picks for, a guy with a lot of tread, taking off those tires already that's already had some injury issues. As special a player as he is, because let's be frank, this man does things that you could argue nobody else in the NFL could do when he's healthy. But yeah, like I said, we'll see what happens there. All right, back to the QB talk here. So the Panthers today signed Mr. Mediocre, Andy Dalton. 2 years, $10 million, 8 of it guaranteed, with incentives that can max out at $17 million. Smart move. Because we all know they made another trade this week. And they had the 1st overall pick. This gives them the option on how they want to bring along whoever they draft. They don't have to force him in. Because they have a legitimate starting caliber backup. I hate to I don't want to overplay, what Andy Dalton is. But he's a game manager that can go in and not embarrass himself. So it gives you the chance to go ahead and say, okay, if this guy's not ready, let's not throw him to the Wolves. Let's put Andy Dalton out there. Throw him to the Wolves instead. Because he'll handle it better because he's been there. He's been, he's been in the league now for quite a number of years. He knows what he's doing. He can read defenses better. He can get things going. So yeah, no, great move. Great move. That's one of those moves that you don't think about too much when you see it at first until you think about it like that. Colts also released Matt Ryan. It's kind of interesting they released him because I expected him to retire. And I haven't heard much on that. So it makes you wonder that if they cut him, is he still not sure if he's going to retire and they need to clear the cap? Do they know he's not going to retire? Obviously not going to tell, everybody what conversations they have privately with him. But yeah, that's going to be something to keep an eye on with Matt Ryan as well. He's another guy, could be a bridge quarterback potentially for another team that gets one of the top quarterbacks here this year. Imagine having Matt Ryan as your mentor. You could do a hell of a lot worse. Falcons signed Taylor Heineke, 2 years, $20 million. So yeah, Taylor Heineke no longer in the NFC East, and depending what happens with them this offseason, they got Desmond Ridder, obviously, going to go in his second year. Took forever to give him a chance to start. Taylor Heineke might be the starter again. He might get the chance to take that job away because, again, Ridder was a third-round pick. It's not like you're sitting there going, I have to play this guy. He was a first-round pick. And for those who have heard me talk about, Taylor Heineke before, we talked about the Commanders earlier during the season. I'm probably a bigger fan of him than most guys out there. And it's because he's a winner. He may not be the most talented guy in the league. He's definitely not. I shouldn't even say that. He's definitely not the most talented guy in the league. But he's a leader, and he's a winner. Guys like that have a value in the league. Even if they're just the backup, even if it doesn't win the job. Guys like that have a value in the league. Look what happened to the Commanders when they went ahead and dropped Carson Wentz as their starter and put him in. They went on a win streak. And I'm telling you right now, if Taylor Heineke had been the quarterback the whole season, guess who would have been in the playoffs? The Commanders would have been in the playoffs. They would have taken that last spot. The Seahawks wouldn't have gone. And we would have had all 4 NFC East teams in the playoffs, which would have just been a weird feeling there. Jonas Anderson comes up with good pickup for the Falcons. Yeah, it's like I said, it's one of those low risk, potentially good reward. I wouldn't say high reward, but good reward for the Falcons there. Let's see. We got the Vikings are expected to re-sign backup QB Nick Mullins. Nothing official on that there. Jacoby Brissett, we talked about him getting looks from the Bucs, last night's episode. Apparently, they're also looking at him with the Eagles as well to be the backup to Jalen Hurts. Not a bad option for a backup to Jalen Hurts because, this is a guy that is a mobile quarterback like Jalen Hurts is. He's a guy that, has got some good experience. He's not going to embarrass himself if you got to put him out there. But yeah, like I said, not a bad move there either. As much as I hate to give kudos ever to the Eagles there, I try to keep it somewhat legit if I think it's a good or bad move, though, when I talk about this kind of stuff. We got some running back news, though, too. Austin Eckler, we talked about him, how he requested permission to seek a trade from the Chargers there yesterday. And they have granted that permission today. So Austin Eckler could very well be on the move this offseason. It doesn't sound like they're really fighting him. Obviously, whether or not they let him get traded depends on what they get back in return for him. That's still part of the equation there. But yeah, they're not really kicking and screaming to keep the guy, which is just crazy. He's a talented guy, but part of the problem is I don't know what his demands are. We talked about this so many times about Barkley. You don't give a large contract to a running back. I'll say this, though. I'd be more likely to give it to Austin Eckler, and this is going to sound weird. I'm more likely to give it to Austin Eckler than I am a guy like Barkley, a guy like, Derrick Henry, some of those kind of guys, because in the end, he's a pass catcher as much as he's a running back. And those guys tend to have longer careers. He's not the guy that's blown in the hole at that point there, taking all these hits. He's the guy who's in the flat, taking the quick wheel route, that kind of guy. So we'll see what happens there for him overall, because, again, I still wouldn't give him a huge contract. But if I had to give the guy 3 years, $30 million, then that's not a bad move for a guy like that. But, again, I don't know what his demands are. John S. Anderson, I'm worried Redskins, yes, I said Redskins, are going to take Lamar Jackson. Just have gut feeling they're gonna, unless Indy or Jets smarten up. But both those are less for happening. Listen, I'll call them the Commanders. That's the name. I'm not going to get the whether the name should have changed or not argument there, but he'd be the most exciting quarterback they've had since RG3. That's for damn sure. And it's a running team. So, yeah, it's not a bad spot for him to go. I'm going to hope that he doesn't go there, just because I don't want to deal with the guy twice a year. But, yeah, no, it's not a bad option. So we got Eagles news here as we talk about the division as well. So Rashad Penny has signed with the Eagles. Of course, the brother of former Giant Elijah Penny. And that kind of spells the end for Miles Sanders because you don't sign a guy like Rashard Penny to be your backup. This is a guy who's got some talent if he can stay healthy. That's a big if. But if he can stay healthy, he's got some talent. So Miles Sanders, like I said, should be gone, which would be interesting to see where he ends up. Based on the way free agency is going, probably the Bears because they've signed every single goddamn player they can. They're the guys winning the free agency, but keep in mind if we got any Bears fans listening, because I know we have a couple that pop on every so often here, keep in mind that he who wins the free agency tends to lose the regular season. It doesn't tend to work out very well. Let's not forget when the Eagles had the super team a couple of years ago when they signed a whole bunch of guys and they were claiming success right in the preseason and before the season even started. The people that win the off season are not typically the ones who win the regular season. It's the people who make very small moves, a couple of pickups, that kind of thing. That's the guys who win, not the guys who try to build a team in one off season. It doesn't work. But yeah, so like I said, they got Rashard Penny. They also re-signed Boston Scott, which should tick off any Giants fans that are listening here because yeah, this guy just scores touchdowns against the Giants every single time he plays us, but nobody else. I don't know what he has. I don't know what John Mayer and Steve Tisch did to his mom or something like. So there's something where this man just does not like us. I don't get it. But yeah, he's back 1 year, $2 million. I almost would have preferred the Giants sign him just to prevent him from scoring on us. Broncos signed Samaj Perine, the backup running back, 2 years, $7 million. Jeff Wilson re-signs with the Dolphins, 2 years, $8.2. Raheem Mostert, 2 years, $5.6 million as well. So yeah, this is a couple of good running backs here for what's been a running back by committee the last couple of years there. J.D. McKissick been released by the Commanders, only 22 carries the last year. So yeah, not a huge loss there. Not one that I'm going to sit there and say really helps us against them. That's for dang sure. So let's see here. We got the wide receiver position. Remember we talked about this yesterday. We said, who's going to be the domino that's going to fall? That's going to start the whole thing up. Because I knew once one receiver went, it sets the market, and you're going to start seeing a whole bunch of them go. So Jacoby Meyer signed with the Ravens. 3 years, $33 million. This was the guy that people were thinking was going to get $15 to $20 million. $15 to $20 million. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. He went for $11 million a year. That's pretty low. But thank you for signing with the Raiders, because that's probably why we got Darren Waller, because he became a little less necessary once they re-signed him, and they probably need to clear the cap space to get him, which is probably why the trade happened too as well. So, but I'm still a little upset. I wish we had gotten him. I think he's the best receiver on the market. It's kind of a shame to see him go to a number 2 when I still think he could be a number 1 somewhere there. Allen Lazard said to be finalizing a 4-year, $44 million contract with the Jets. So I guess Aaron Rodgers is getting what the hell he wants. Piece of crap he is. You see, I can't hide my feelings, right? Michael Thomas reworks his deal to stay with the Saints. So 1 year on the contract, $10 million with incentives could go to $15 million. And that stunned a lot of people. A lot of people were thinking he was going to get cut and be gone. I was kind of hoping it, to be honest, because if we can get him for $10 million like the Saints ended up keeping him for, if he can stay healthy again, he is a legit number 1. And besides Jacoby Meyer and OBJ, he's the only guy who's ever really was a number 1, is going to be a number 1 that's available, at least as a free agent there and potentially there if he was cut. But yeah, like I said, he'll stay 1 more year with New Orleans. We'll have to keep an eye on that for next offseason maybe. Noah Brown leaves the Cowboys for the Texans, 1 year deal. I have not seen any figures on that. Raiders signed veteran Philip Dorsett, former Texan, former Colt, former Patriot. The guy's been around the league since 1975. So, yeah, he's off to rejoin Josh McCown. I mean, sorry, Josh McCown, Josh McDaniel in Las Vegas there. And can we just say for a second here, Josh McDaniel is just totally effing up the Raiders here. You cut Derek Carr, you get Jimmy Garoppolo, the guy who's probably just as good as Jimmy Carr, as David Carr as David Carr is. I'm sorry, Derek Carr is, but can't stay healthy. That's a downgrade. You get rid of Darren Waller, and we talked about Darren Waller as like top 5 tight end in the league. So you can get Jacoby Meyer. I'm just not understanding it. And yeah, that's just a move I wouldn't make there. I wouldn't make it at all there. But yeah, that's an interesting one there. So let's see. We got a couple more comments here. First one from my dad. Bears have been losing out on the free agent offensive lineman. Well, they got Nate Davis, the guard from the Texans yesterday. There's also interesting on the news on who's considered the top offensive lineman really in this free agency here, Orlando Brown Jr. And news is still kind of coming down on that one there. But yeah, it sounds like there's an issue where he was going to sign with the Bears. Then there was an issue as far as, right tackle, left tackle again, which has been an issue for him his whole career. So we'll have to kind of, keep an eye on that because apparently the Bears wanted him to be a right tackle and he still wants to be a left tackle. He's stuck on that left tackle thing because he wants the money that comes to being a left tackle. Let's see. Washington does not have the cap flexibility to get Lamar Jackson. Here's the thing with that, though. Again, if you want somebody in free agency and whatever, you move money around and you figure it out. And that's what they're going to do if they have to do it there. So let's take a look real quick at the Washington Commanders cap flexibility here. Let's see here. So, yeah, they have $19 million in cap space as of right now. So it all depends on if Lamar Jackson wants to go. There's part of it. Because keep in mind, we talked about, $40 million a year average for Daniel Jones. He's only getting $19 million in the first year on the cap. You can just maneuver things around. They'll figure it out if they want him and if he wants them. John S. Anderson Jr. Well, his name is Boston. Maybe some weird Marvel Quantum Realm thing. They're still mad we beat the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl. I don't think that's it, but that's an interesting theory, John. We'll have to take a look there. And my dad again, Waller didn't fit the Raiders scheme, neither did Carr, which is why they're both gone. Now, the interesting thing on that I keep hearing whispers and rumors of is Carr was considered not a fit culture-wise. And no one has given any clue or inclinations to what culture issue there was there. Whether it was he didn't want to practice enough with the guys out of the building, he didn't want to go ahead and maybe spend more time in the film. I don't know. No one's given that. But that's what I'm hearing. And as far as Waller, yeah, they didn't want him last year either. And you're probably right in the scheme fit issue there with that one. But yeah, again, Josh McDaniel, horrible coach, should never be in charge of any kind of franchise whatsoever. Alrighty, so on to the tackles here. So Caleb McGarry agreed to a new deal with the Falcons, 3 years, $34.5 million, previously rumored to be on the way out, but they made it happen. Chargers re-signed right tackle Trey Pipkins, so Chargers keeping that together there. We talked about Shaq Mason yesterday, the guard from the Buccaneers, and how he's on the trading block. Well, he's officially been traded. So he was traded, and talk about for like nothing. Like it's insanity. He was traded to the Texans. They gave up a 6th-round pick, and they got Shaq Mason and a 7th-round pick. So their 6th went down to a 7th. The Bucs went from a 7th to a 6th. That's all they did. That's nothing. So they just gave him away. And he's got a decent cap number. I think I remember seeing the numbers like 9 million to change on his cap. So maybe that's part of it there. But yeah, I mean, Texans are doing it right by building the line. Obviously, they got one of the best left tackles in the league, top three, top four. Assuming they keep him because there was trade talks with him yesterday and the Chiefs. They got a first round pick in Green as one of their guards. Now they got Mason as one of their guards as well. They got a decent center. So yeah, they're starting to build up a line more and more so they can protect whatever rookie they get with that second overall pick. So we got a couple more things here. So we got Matt Fielder's cut by the Chargers, creates $6.5 million in cap space. He was one of their starting guards this year. Might be interesting for the Giants to take a look at, as we are going to need somebody to replace Nick Gates and be an interior offensive lineman. Jamari Saylor, who stepped in for Rashawn Slater when he was injured this past year, is set to slide back into guard, where it's a more natural fit for him, and he's going to take over that spot. Panthers also cut offensive lineman Pat Elfin. So again, more guys getting cut. And as we made these two big moves here the last 2 days, Giant fans, keep an eye out. Because the guys who get cut are typically cheaper than the guys who are flat out free agents. It's not to say the guys that get cut aren't flat out free agents now, but the guys who were expected to be free agents, the guys who had this start year for the first couple of days, those guys tend to get more money than the guys who get cut a couple days into it. So let's keep an eye on that. We talked also about Nick Gates obviously going to the Commanders yesterday, in a move that still upsets me as a Giant fan, because I wanted that man to be a Giant for life. I'm just a big fan of him as far as his personality, much more than his play, probably his personality and just his overall effort and what he is as a person. But can't blame the guy for leaving, because they gave him $5 million a year. And looking at the information today, as we get some of the bigger names to re-sign as far as the center position, Vikings re-signed Garrett Bradbury, 3 years, $15.75 million. Niners re-signed Jake Brendel, 4 years, $20 million. Think about that for a second. When I say that Nick Gates got a minute ago, $5 million. If they think that Nick Gates is Garrett Bradbury, that's crazy. There's a reason the Commanders have been not so good for the last 20 years or so. But yeah, it's interesting to see some of these numbers too as well, because I got to say, I expected some of these guys to get paid a hell of a lot more than they're getting paid. I expected Jacoby Meyer to get more than $11 million a year. I expected Bradbury to get more like $8-9 million a year. This has been some underpaying, that's for sure, in this free agency here. Onto the defense, former Giant Dalvin Tomlinson, who I know a lot of you guys are still big fans of, because he was a good player with us. Just wanted a ton of money for what he was doing. We already had Dexter Lawrence sitting there. So 4 years, $57 million to the Browns now. Steelers and Larry Ogunjobi agreed to a 3-year, $28.75 million extension. Seahawks intent to bring back defensive tackle Jaron Reed. Nothing's official on that part. They also plan on cutting Quentin Jefferson. Again, not official yet done either. Colts signed former 49er defensive end Samson Ebukam at a 3-year, $27 million. Lions re-sign defensive lineman John Kaminsky, 2 years, $8.5 million. Shy Tuttle from the Saints goes to the Patriots, to the Panthers, 3 years, $19.5 million. Also, the Jets are rumored to be looking to re-sign Sheldon Rankins as well, the defensive tackle. So, get a breath after that one. Went through a good stretch there. On to the linebacker. And just when you thought we ran out of linebackers, because yesterday was like a linebacker spending spree overall. It felt like we had like 10 or 11 linebackers signing up there. We got more coming. The Cowboys are bringing back Leighton Vander Esch, 2 years, $11 million. So we should look forward to seeing him on the IR for them next season. The Cardinals signed former Eagles linebacker Kazir White, 2 years, that can max out to $11 million there. So Eagles lost even more on their defense there. Former Niner Azeez Al-Assir signs with the Titans, so he'll replace David Long. The Browns re-sign Seon Taki, 1-year deal. No numbers that I've seen given on that one there. Duke Riley re-signs with the Dolphins, 2-year deal there. Special teamer, so I don't think it's going to be a lot of money there, but I haven't heard the number on that. EJ Speed re-signs with the Colts, 2 years, $9 million. Obviously, they don't want to lose a second linebacker after losing Bobby Okereke to us there yesterday. Corner, James Bradbury re-signed with the Eagles, 3 years, $38 million, $44 million max. Again, that's less money than I expected. I thought he'd get the base like $45 million with, incentives bringing to the low 50s even. It's probably his last big contract where his age is in the late 20s there. When he's done, he's in his 30s. The Eagles also apparently discussed a trade with the Cowboys to trade away Darius Slay, which is just shocking to me. Like, why would you ever, if you're the Eagles, talk to the Cowboys and give them one of the best corners in the league? I mean, granted, he's 32 years old. He's still got 3 more years of big contract money there, I think. But yeah, that's interesting there. Unless they were just trying to gauge and see what they thought he was worth, so they have a better idea when they talk to other teams. But yeah, you don't typically do a inter-division trade. And especially you don't do it when it's a talented player that the other team obviously wants and needs. But, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time they've done it. Keep in mind, draft night a couple years ago. It's why we don't have a certain wide receiver, and the Eagles do. So, but the good news for any Cowboys fans are in here. And by the way, if you guys are a Cowboy fan, you haven't won a championship since '96. Still saying it. Colts traded away Stephon Gilmore to the Cowboys. So they still got a great corner. And why I'm not a Diggs fan, having Diggs and Gilmore is a good duo. It's hard to sit there and say that's not a good duo. Yeah, so depending on what happens with Slay, we might have the 2 best corner duos in our division. So, Joe Shane, time to get that receiver. Otherwise, the guys we have right now can't get open against those guys. They're not good enough. Let's be honest and call it what it is. So we also got Lions sign another corner as well, a second day in a row signing a corner. Emmanuel Mosley, former 49er, 1 year, $6 million. Had a big injury last season, so that's an improve deal basically. Former Giant Jabril Peppers re-signs with New England Patriots, 2-year deal. No money that I've seen given as far as numbers there. Jags re-sign Andrew Wingard, 3 years, $9.6 million. The Cowboys also re-signed Donovan Wilson, 3 years, $24 million. So some safeties going, but obviously the one name we haven't heard yet is a certain Julian Love here. So I haven't heard any news on him whatsoever today, which makes me wonder what's going on there. Are we still talking to him? Any progress being made? There's always been rumors that they're talking about him as if they want to bring him back, but it's because the fans like him. But in the end, money might be an issue, and they don't expect to get him. I've heard those rumors rumbling for a while. I mean, let's be honest, folks. They did get Dane Belton last year for a reason in the draft. I don't think he's the answer to replace Julian Love, but they did get, safety in the draft there. So we'll see what happens there. Kicker-wise, we got some kicker news. Cardinals re-signed kicker Matt Prater, who is 39 years old. The guy's been kicking forever. I remember so many years ago, with the Broncos for how long too. So, good for him to keep going there. Colts signed Matt Gay from the Rams, 4 years, $22.5 million. The biggest 4-year contract ever given to a kicker. And yeah, that's a good amount of money, but he's a damn good kicker. That's a guy that has power, has precision. Not that I would take him over Gano. I'm happy with Gano, but yeah, it's a good pickup for any team to get, because especially a team that doesn't have the greatest offense like the Colts don't, because when your offense isn't that good, you're kicking a lot more field goals. So kind of big there. That's all the news we got here for today. Let's see the comment here. Well, I've got one more from my dad here. Raiders want to run a quick, short, and mid passing attack. Not as many downfield passes as Carr wanted to throw, and he clashed on audible options. Listen, if that's what they wanted, they shouldn't have gotten Devontae Adams then this offseason. They should have gone ahead and gotten more, quick route running type of receivers. So that's on them. But again, I hate Josh McDaniels, so I'm never going to say anything positive about the Raiders as long as he's there. Also, CBs look better when their pass rush gets after the quarterback and vice versa. Yeah, no, that's definitely the case there. And obviously, we still need a CB as well. But I think from everything I'm seeing, I think we're going to get one in the draft. All the rumors are basically that's going to be the top thing to look at in the draft here. And when I'm hearing that rumor, that's also why I think that we're going to get a wide receiver before this is all said and done. Because if that wasn't the case, then you would sit there and go, okay, wide receiver or corner. That's the two big spots we got to go. And hope that one of those is available with the first round and one of those is available with the second round. And you can sit there and say, this is a good offseason now. Because we really shored up some positions of need. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. We got day 3 tomorrow. Obviously, I expect a lot more moves to be made. We'll be back on again 9 o'clock tomorrow to give you guys all the updates, everything that goes on there. Rob will be on with me as well. For those of you guys who miss Rob, I know John, I know you miss Rob. You were asking all about him, so he'll be on there for you guys with me tomorrow at 9 o'clock. As always, we are on YouTube, Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Twitch, and we're on my LinkedIn page of all things. And that's live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday typically. Today's just a bonus episode here because it's the start of free agency. There's no way in hell we weren't going to talk about Darren Waller. There's no way in hell we weren't going to have that conversation. But yeah, like I said, keep an eye out for that tomorrow night. I'm hoping for some more. I'm hoping for a wide receiver tomorrow. I really am. And I don't even have a name who I'm hoping for, really, per se. I've heard a lot of people say Paris Campbell from the Colts. I don't think that's going to be the guy because he's very much like a lot of the guys we already have. But I do expect one to be back on there. So, again, we'll be back on tomorrow night for you guys there. I got a couple more comments here. With my dad, we need CB, wide receiver, and O-lineman in the first 3 rounds. Yeah. I'm with you 100% on that. We've been saying that for the last couple episodes. Corner, a wide receiver, and an interior offensive lineman. I'll say it that way as well, and add that little bit there to it. And then you'll have a wild card spot where you can just pick the best player available for one of those picks, if one of those spots is not available there. John comes in, you did good, not bad for one goofball, but I'd rather have 2 balls. That's what she said. Oh, my. Now you're making all the people out there with just one feel bad, John. So again, guys, I want to thank you all for listening in today. I hope you guys are as pumped up, excited as I am to have Darren Waller on the team. Like, seriously, this is probably the most talented offensive weapon that we've had in this team since we lost OBJ. That's how big I think this move is. I really do. So get excited, guys, because we're assuming he can stay healthy this year. This is not all like it was last year. We'll have a legitimate weapon out there. Again, like I said, we'll be on again tomorrow night. Again, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and LinkedIn Live. Will be available afterwards as well. Again, we'll be on every single podcast platform of the audio only if that's what you prefer. Do me a favor, please hit that like, hit that subscribe on whatever platform you're on, whether video, audio, or both. Feel free to move along to various platforms and hit that like, subscribe, and everything. The easiest way to find out when we have new episodes coming out is keep in mind, we may shoot episodes on days we usually don't if big things come on down this offseason. So hit that bell on YouTube. That's the easiest way, because you'll get an automatic notification anytime that we're on live. And of course, if you like this content, feel free to sponsor the next show at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. That's buymeacoffee.com/2 giant goofballs. And yes, I said coffee, not coffee. Coffee. Can't help myself. It's the Jersey in me coming out. Spent too many years up there with you guys. So again, thank you very much, Giant fans, for coming in here today. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Hope I didn't disappoint having just me instead of Rob as well. But again, I want to thank you all for listening in and following along, giving comments, sharing out to everybody, guys. We really appreciate that because that's how we grow this show. So as always, Giant fans, go G-Men!
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support. If you made it this long, you must have enjoyed it. So I am sure you have followed us on all the social media platforms. Of course, you have subscribed to the show on your favorite app as well and given us a top rating. Right? Right? Right?